It is what it is. For those of you who are not familiar with Friday the 13th, the last movie was 2009, and then there was a lawsuit between Victor Miller and Sean S. Cunningham. Victor Miller wrote the original Friday the 13th. Sean Cunningham uh, was the director and I guess the rights owner to the series until recently. With the lawsuit coming out, um, they haven't been able to produce any new Friday the 13th movies. It essentially killed the Friday the 13th game, and then it's really put us horror fans down bad, especially us Jason fanboys who really like to see some new Friday the 13th material. Um, Luckily, the lawsuit's been settled. Well, it's not been settled. They ruled in favor for Victor, um, who was the original writer. Now, our only hope is that both Victor and Sean can come to some sort of agreement that would allow them to work together or split some profits somehow in order to move this franchise forward and for everybody to make money. um, yeah, I think at this point, um, it's a no-brainer that they'll get together and hash out a deal. I mean, sure, Sean isn't going to make as much money as he did, but um, money's money. So hopefully they come to their senses and kind of get that going. All right. So here are my lists. Here's my rankings. Like I have God tier, and I have A, B, C, D. I'm not one of those people who's going to give an F because I don't. I mean, even if it's a bad movie, people still put a lot of hard work into it, and I'm not going to completely crap all over them. All right. So let's start with the OG, the 1980 Friday the 13th. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Friday the 13th, like I said, created in 1980, um, written by Victor Miller, directed and produced by Sean S. Cunningham of Horror Inc. The movie starred Betsy Palmer, R.I.P., Adrian King, I believe it was Jenny Taylor, Robbie Morgan, Kevin Bacon's first movie. Kevin Bacon. This is where the Kevin Bacon game all starts. Not playing. This was his very first movie as well. Um, and this was a great movie. Um, it really kind of kicked off horror for a lot of people. Now, sure, it was kind of a rip off of Halloween, and it's even kind of been acknowledged that. But um, the movie was filmed at this camp called Nobi Bosco. I think it was in New Jersey. Still in operation today. A little other fun fact was Betsy Palmer said that had it not been for the fact that she needed a new car, she wouldn't even have starred in this movie. Uh, and I accept that because 1980 uh, and kind of how movies were changing, especially for older actors at the time. This could be just an absolute train wreck of a film. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. I believe the movie was shot for like $500,000. It was made for like $500,000 and grossed like 40 million. So that is a hell of a profit. Um, and so obviously highly successful, which is why we continued to get Friday the 13th movies. And this was also legendary Tom Savini's. He was in this film. He was one of the first crew members on board, and his and he helped create the little boy Jason look with the deformities and everything like that. So that's kind of cool. So where would I rank Friday the 13th, 1980 on my list? Um, it, I have to put a God tier, right? I mean, it's the one that kicked it all off. Sure, Jason's only in it for a split second, and he's a little boy, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it kick started everything that we have today in the Friday the 13th universe. And that's huge. So that is why it is God tier. Up next, we're going to have Friday the 13th Part 2, which I believe is this one right here. All right. Again, this movie had Betsy Palmer in it. It also starred Amy Steele as Jenny. Had Adrian King in the beginning of it. Also starred Walt Corney as Crazy Ralph. Uh, Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash kind of shared the roles of Jason. I won't get into really the story of who does what, because if you ask one, it's this way. If you ask another, it's this way. But Steve Dash recently passed away, so that argument's kind of null and void now. But both Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash shared the duties of Jason. Tom McBride played Mark, who was in the wheelchair. He kind of has uh, one of the more popular deaths in Friday the 13th lore, where he gets hit in the head with a machete and his wheelchair goes rolling down the steps. uh, it's a good movie. It was directed by Steve Miner. It's also introduced adult Jason, so that was a very good, obviously a very good thing for us. Uh, Adrian King comes back as her role for Alice from the first one. Um, but she didn't want to be like the main star because fans of the first one were kind of they weren't kind of, they were really stalking her and kind of making her scared for her life. So she did not really want to be uh, in this movie a whole lot. Um, Another scene. There's a scene at the end where Jason comes flying through the window. Spoiler, by the way. Comes flying through the window and grabs Ginny. And when they did that, when the character did that, the Jason was actually, or the Warrington Gillette, I believe, who was the character at the time, was actually hurt. He tried to break the window, but it didn't break, and he ended up hitting his head really hard and getting concussed. So, little fun, little fun thing about that. Yeah, this is they're also introduced, like I said, Sackhead Jason. It was good because it finally introduces the adult Jason, and I'd rank this an A. Not God tier for me, be, because there's a few things that wasn't uh, a huge fan on. Like obviously Adrian King's character only being in a short time. If you know Adrian personally, she's a great lady, super nice, super sweet, and I mean obviously I know she didn't want to be in it on her own, and which is fine. But as a fan, especially with the first one, I wanted her to be in it more. So that was disheartening. Um, and to be fair, even though it's the first time adult Jason is introduced, the pillowcase really bothers me. um, I the hockey mask is it for me. And while this is the first one, it the first time for adult Jason, anyways. It I don't know. I didn't like the pillowcase. Friday the 13th Part 3. This one is 3D. This one stars Richard Broker as Jason Voorhees, R.I.P. as well. Has uh, uh, I'm drawing a blank. Uh, Dana Kimmel as Chris. Uh, Gloria Charles as Fox, who I think also recently passed, and Gloria's Fox is actually in the Friday the 13th game, which is really really cool. Um, I can't think of anybody else in that movie. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh man, what a terrible time to draw a blank. So this movie's filmed in 3D. Eh, I'm not a fan of the 3D at that time. Even as a kid, I thought it was really, really, really corny and campy. Um, the So most of the stuff on that movie, Friday the 13th Part 3, was actually built on location. The man-made lake wasn't properly sealed, water drained and soil during the first week of filming. It was a rough shoot for a lot of people. This was also introduction of um, the hockey mask, which was Larry Zerner as Shelley. Thank you. I popped that off. And introduced Jason in the hockey mask, which has been in the movies ever since, and it is the most one of the most iconic things in horror. And then let's see here, what else was there? It was the 3D, like I said. Although I think the 3D is really, really campy in this movie. And it was made for like a budget of I think 4 million, and it made like another 40 million. So I mean, like 10% of your, or no, 10%, 10 times your budget is really, really good. Now, for me, the 3D aspect of this really drops us down for me. Um, Also, the character of Jenny, uh, uh, or not Jenny, I'm sorry, Chris. Dana Kimmel really annoys me. Like she screams like an awful lot, and man, I don't like that. uh, so I got to give that a C for me. I know a lot of people are probably gonna be like, but it's Richard Broker, and hey, I get it. Richard Broker is a fantastic Jason in this movie. Uh, but everything else about it, oh man, I can't. Yeah, not a fan. All right, now we're up to Friday the 13th, Part 4, aka the final chapter. This introduces kind of a mainstay character, Friday the 13th, for at least the next three films. And that's the character of Tommy Jarvis, portrayed by Corey Feldman, um, at least in the first two, like this one and five. Um, and it also has Crispin Glover, who is uh, the eccentric actor from Willard and from Charlie's Angels, and obviously Marty McFly's dad in Back to the Future. This movie, Friday the 13th Part 4, Crispin Glover also gave us the Dead Fuck Dance, which if you are not familiar with, but I would definitely Google it. It is great. Or maybe when I edit this video, I'll just edit a spot right here to show you the Dead Fuck Dance. So, um, this movie was this movie's good. It's really, really good. Tommy Jarvis is a young kid. Um, Everybody thinks that Jason Voorhees is dead. Obviously, he is not. Tommy and his mom and his sister, they come to a house, which happens and ends up being dubbed the Jarvis house from any forward and from the game if you're familiar with. Obviously, Jason comes back, starts killing people, and kills Tommy's mother. Um, and then Tommy kind of loses his shit and snaps, and ultimately him and Jason battle it out. This is also kind of a cool note. Uh, Most of the films pick up immediately where the previous film left off. So like there isn't really much time in between one, well, from two, three, and four. My nose is itching. God, we're terrible time. Um, they kind of pick up almost immediately. This is the last film to do that. Um, it's also the kind of the if you are a fan of the series, it's also kind of the last time we see um, human Jason. Uh, the theory goes that Jason lived and he didn't drown. He lived. He ended up living in the woods. Saw his mom get beheaded in the first one. Then grow and then becomes kind of uh, an Avenger sort of. He takes it takes it out on anybody who shows up at the camp camping. So he kills camp counselors, campers, things like that. Um, they say that he didn't die when he got hit by Amy Steele's character. I think it was Ginny in the second one right here. He goes on into 3, um, and he apparently doesn't die in 3. 4, they say is the last, like when he gets his hand cut and then that machete through his head and slides down. That's like his human death. 5 we'll get into, and then like 6 and through the rest of them, there's zombie Jason where he's supernatural and got all these powers, strength and stuff. um, I got into a ramble there. Like I said, Crispin Glover does his dead fuck dancing here. Ted White, who is Jason, is actually the oldest Jason now. I believe he is 95, but he was 58 at the time of the filming. And I think it's really kind of all I wanted to consider. A lot of people consider Ted White to be the best Jason. I don't. I think he's the second best. Um, and this film was made with a budget of like $2 million and made $32 million. So again, substantial profits made. And this is why the series continued to make money. Where would I rank Part 4? I'm going to give it an A. I know that's blasphemy for a lot of people, and I apologize, but we have to give it an A. Friday the 13th, Part 5. Jason, Our New Beginning. Alright, so this movie stars Corey Feldman briefly, um, Dominic Garcia, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, as Joey. It has Dick Wyland and Tom Morgan. Dick Wyland plays Roy. Tom Morgan played Jason. He's uncredited in the film, though. This movie also stars Deborah Voorhees, so if you're a fan of the series, you probably know who Deborah Voorhees is. No, she's not really related to Jason, but she's now a director writer, and you should go check out 13 Fanboy, a movie by her. It's a Friday the 13th related film. It's got Miguel Nunez in it, who you might know now, who's kind of had a great career. It also stars John Shepard as a adult Jason Voorhees. So he was so we kind of advanced Tommy now into an adult age. And hey Spawn, how you doing, man? I'm doing a tier list for Friday the 13th, and here we are. Currently talking about Friday the 13th Part 5. So everybody was in that. Corey Feldman couldn't be in the film entirely as he was filming Goonies. So initially it was going to be a sequel with Corey Feldman, and it was going to continue to kind of advance that narrative. But since Corey Feldman was filming Goonies at the time, he really couldn't commit to another Friday the 13th. So the script had to be changed, which is kind of why, it's not kind of why, it's just why we got the fake Jason aspect. Well, little fun facts about Friday the 13th Part 5 was Corey Feldman actually shot his scenes in his neighbor's backyard, which I thought was really cool. Ted White was, again, there was always kind of this thing, there was always a different Jason every film. In this film, Ted White was offered the role of Jason again, but he turned it down, which he admits was a regrettable decision. But again, it was Tom Morgan as Jason this time. It also stars Deborah Voorhees, and there's certain things about Deborah Voorhees that a lot of fans love. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. And this is probably one of those things. Also, the character Tommy Jarvis, he's suffering from obviously mental instability from his ordeal with Jason as a kid, and he doesn't say a lot of lines here. So he's kind of, I believe he only says like 24 or 30 lines, something like that. Nothing crazy. And but Friday the 13th Part 5, what lacks an actual Jason makes up for in kills. I think Part 5 has a lot of great kills. Um, Victor and Joey, That scene you don't really expect. It was great. Um, Deborah Voorhees' kill, fantastic. There's a lot of good kills. This is why I will have to give The New Beginning an A. It is great. Um, a lot of people get mad because it doesn't actually have Jason in it. And if you can stop being so pretentious, difficult, you'd understand that this movie's not. It's great. Great. All right, Friday the 13th, Part 6. This continues the Tommy Jarvis narrative one more time. This time it stars Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis. Jennifer Cook is Megan. It's got C.J. Graham as Jason this time. C.J. Graham is a hulking dude, especially now. He's also one of the nicer dudes as well. It stars the director's wife, Tom McLaughlin, Nancy McLaughlin, and it's also got Tony Goldwyn, who, if you're not familiar with, was huge in Ghost. He was actually kind of ultimately the big bad in Ghost. Spoiler. So this movie had a lot of people in it, and it also introduced us the first time to zombie Jason. Like I said before earlier, the narrative in the Friday the 13th was part 1 through 4 were human Jason. Part 5, obviously fake Jason, and then part 6 on starts the resurrected zombie Jason narrative, and that is where we're at with that. um, Tommy dealing with a lot of psychological stuff still. Uh, Goes to the grave, digs Jason up, shoves a metal rod in his chest, lightning strikes it, and then that's how we get what we have now. So we can blame Tommy Jarvis, where we can congratulate Tommy Jarvis for killing um, Jason in Part 5, uh, or Parts 4, and then we can literally pin every other death on Tommy Jarvis from Part 6 on. Anybody that's killed by Jason after that is all Tommy Jarvis's fault. So not really a good guy. Love Part 6. I love Part 6 too, man. It's so good. Uh, really really good. And even when you start getting into like this 5, 6, and 7s of movies, you're like, man, what the hell's happening? Fast and Furious, looking at you. Um, it was this movie just gets. I mean, it's good. Um, and a little fun fact about this movie: Tom McLaughlin, the director, took home a lot of the props that he created for the film, like the tombstone, things like that. Um, Doug, um, this also has one of. Gonna see how your list is different to mine. I'm in. This movie also has a really cool kill scene with the paintballers, and legend has it that it also has a deleted scene that depicts one of the paintballers um, getting killed in a terrible, terrible fashion. If you notice when the paintballers get killed, he decapitates them, and the one guy shoots him, and then like takes off running, and then like Jason chases after him, and that's kind of it. Um, well, later on, you come across like the severed body parts of that character, but they never show it. Yeah, that dude gets just eviscerated and just dismembered, and um, obviously they had to take it out for the ratings and stuff like that, and it was probably too over the top for them at the time. But uh, yeah, that's a little fun fact for the scene there. uh, and this was the first film in the entire series, um, did not include nudity. So, which was kind of a staple for horror and especially slasher films like this. There is a sex scene in the movie, but uh, and Tom McLaughlin had asked about the nudity, and I believe it was Darcy Darcy DeMoss was uncomfortable uh, with the scene, so he said no, and thus that is why there's no nudity in the film. And hey, I'm glad he didn't push the subject on her either. He asked for it. She said no, and that was it. Um, where would I rank 6? this is gonna be. Where would I rank it? It's not God tier, and I don't think. I think I got to put it a B. That's not bad, but I don't like it more than 2, 4, and 5. But I definitely like it more than 3. So yeah, I think I have to go B. All right, now we're on to Friday the 13th, Part 7. And if you know me, you probably know where this movie is going to end up on my list. Hint, hint. This movie stars Terry Kaiser, aka Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. It has Laura Park Lincoln as Tina. And Laura Park, if you ever end up watching this, I just want you to know I love you. Um, it also introduces who I think the best Jason Voorhees of all time is, and that is Kane Hodder. Uh, Kane Hodder portrays, makes Jason menacing and terrifying. Jason has always kind of been bigger than life, but Kane brought an aspect to Jason with somehow showing emotion for a character who wears a hockey mask. Like when Jason's getting his butt kicked, like he gets up and starts like hulking up a little bit. Uh, those little nuances really elevate Jason to a much more frightening figure. Um, because like once you realize that, okay, he's an unstoppable killing machine, but now he's an unstoppable killing machine that is pissed. He becomes a little more terrifying, and Kane really does a good job of that. And personally, I like some of the kills here. Um, Not as good as I like 5, but the kills are really good. I hope for. Wait, Kane is a monster. Yes, he is. I really hope one day that um, Kane gets to come back and play Jason at least one more time. I think Kane is owed it. I think he deserves it. And I'll get in that in here in a little bit. Um, I Kane and what John Carl Buechler did for Friday the 13th was huge. This movie was also allegedly supposed to be finally the battle of Freddy versus Jason that a lot of people wanted, but due to rights issues between the studios and Paramount and New Line, they weren't able to really get that worked out. Thus, was the character of Tina was introduced with her psychic and telekinesis abilities. Not psychic ability. Well, yeah, I guess she was a little psychic, and her telekinesis abilities, and that's why Tina Shepard was created, and really one of the very first people to, other than Tommy Jarvis, to really, really kind of whoop Jason's ass. Ass. I Door Knew the Blood. Wasn't this also supposed to be Carrie versus Jason? Also, it was actually supposed to be Freddy versus Jason. But the movie studios, Paramount, New Line couldn't get together, and yeah. I love Jason's kill with the weed whacker thing to Terry Kaiser. I love um, uh, I love I love this scene where she opens up the door and Jason's standing there and he takes an axe right to her head and throws her across the room. Um, it's also inspired the NES and the NES version, uh, the cover of the game. I wish there would have been an uncut version. Yeah, I mean, there was, but I think all the film got lost, unfortunately, or damaged, which sucks for us. Um, and the cool thing about Jason in this one is what the director John Carl, I'm going to pronounce butcher his last name as always, uh, Bueller, Butcher, whatever. He took all of Jason's previous injuries and added them all together. I mean, so like everything with Jason that's happened prior is documented on this Jason. And I thought that was really really cool. Um, but for me, if you know me, you know this is God tier for me. This movie I love. Um, it's the introduction of Kane Hodder, has Lar Park Lincoln, um, and is just so good, so good. All right, Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan, which is just an absolute lie of a title. Um, Jason visits Manhattan, but only goes after the same people on the boat. But no, this movie stars Jensen Daggett as Rennie. Kane Hodder returns as Jason. Very first time a Jason has returned. Um, Scott Reeves as Sean. Has Peter Mark Richmond as Charles. Uh, and it also has Ken Kersinger as a chef cook in New York, which we'll talk about later. Um, the movie starts off with a boat. This movie does have some good kills. I will say this off the rip. I think this movie has some great kills. Um, but the movie starts off with a trip on a boat. Um, Jason wreaks havoc on the boat, and then they abandon ship. The survivors make it to New York. Jason follows them, um, kicks the shit out of a stereo, and then becomes a little baby at the end. uh, so that was pretty much it. I don't understand the ending. I don't understand how toxic waste makes a grown man a baby again. Maybe it's a metaphor. I don't know. It's the ending's awful, and I hate the fact that Jason has all of Manhattan to go through, and he's going after the same people again. But some fun facts from this film was like Kane said this was the most fun for him as Jason because he was getting to walk through Times Square as Jason Voorhees, and he had a lot of fun doing that. What is that beeping that keeps coming through? Um, uh, also has there's Ken Kersinger's in this movie where Jason throws him against the wall. Um, that's kind of funny for multiple reasons, which we'll get into here in a little bit. This has a good kill with a boxer. Um, Jason knocks his head off. Really cool kill. Um, but other than that, like I know it's how do I say this? I don't think it really delivers on what it could have been for a Jason Goes to New York film. Uh, so I'm gonna have to rank it as a C. It just didn't have. I don't know. It didn't. The ending doesn't make sense for me, and then it bothers me that this killer of killers, like this, not killer of killers, but this just hulking menace of a killer, um, is just walking through New York, just forgetting all these other people, and somehow able to track down the people that were on the boat. I don't get it. All right, Jason Goes to Hell, Part 9. Again, Kane Hodder returns as Jason Voorhees. We have Stephen Williams playing the role of Creighton Duke. We got Rusty Schwimmer as Joey. Um, Leslie Jordan, who has kind of become a walking meme lately, is in this movie as Shelby. Um, this movie, this movie can really divide a fan base. Like it can really, really divide a fan base. You're a big fan of Jason Goes to Hell, you might want to stop watching then. No. Um, So Jason gets blown up by the FBI in the beginning of this film, and then Jason is essentially a creature, worm-like creature who can possess bodies, and somehow only a Voorhees can kill a Voorhees, which doesn't make a lot of sense because Tommy Jarvis actually killed Jason initially, and Creighton Duke is hunting him. Uh, and obviously, with Jason being blown up in the very beginning of the film, um, the character of Jason Voorhees, like the hulking beast, isn't in the film hardly at all. Um, and uh, I don't know. Um, and it seems to be, I will add, only enjoy the uncut version. I might not have seen the uncut version. I have it, but I haven't watched it. So I don't, with the lack of Jason in the film, and this whole only a Voorhees can kill a Voorhees thing, and Jason not being like just the menace that he is, but like some worm thing. Not a huge fan of this film. I do like it for two reasons. Well, three reasons. I think Creighton Duke is a good character. I enjoy Creighton Duke. I like Steve Williams, also for Supernatural fame. Um, I really like him as Creighton Duke. um, I love the fact that Jason Voorhees, aka Kane Hodder, kills himself in this movie. There's a scene where Kane, who is not wearing any makeup, unmasked, is playing a security guard, and Jason uh, kills him, and that's really cool. I thought that was really, really cool. And the last but not least, at the end of this film, um, when Jason gets sent to hell, his mask is left behind, and then the hand comes out and grabs the mask. The hand is the glove of Freddy Krueger, also played by Kane Hodder in this movie. Um, so Freddy comes up and grabs Jason's mask and takes it down. That was really cool. As a fan of horror, that moment was huge. Um, but overall, as a movie, as a Jason Voorhees movie, uh, I have to give it my lowest rating, which is a D. And I'm sorry, I just you'd love to see that in cinema. It was great, dude. Because obviously the internet really wasn't popping off and all that other stuff. And not having things spoiled. When he reaches his hand up there, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing!" So, really, really good. All right, up next. This up next is kind of another fan divider, and that is Jason X. Um, Jason goes to space. This is a time when like all these main horror characters were going to space. Leprechaun in space, Hellraiser in space, uh, Jason in space. I don't know why everybody thought space was a big thing. Maybe because of Event Horizon. Maybe I don't know. I don't. I don't. I don't get the whole space aspect. I guess it was just a thing that they wanted to do. I guess. Um, this is your least favorite? Yeah. It's not my least favorite, but it's it's not my best either. Uh, this movie um, has the return of Kane Hodder for the last time, unfortunately. Um, Also has Lexi Doig as Rowan. Has Lisa Ryder's KM-14, which is a cyborg kind of robot. Um, and that's Christy Angus as Adrian, who has the uh, distinct award of having one of the most unique Jason kills that I think to date. And that's when Adrian is doing an autopsy and Jason unthaws and comes back to life, and then he freezes her face in liquid nitrogen and then smashes it on the table. Thought that kill was really, really cool. um, so she has the distinction of being one of my favorite kills. Other than that, this movie is, I mean, it's really just kind of a train wreck of um, various things. Mostly it's just kills. Um, Todd Farmer created it. He kind of based the film around Alien. Uh, and that's, I don't, what do I even really want to add to this? Uh, I think this was the first film that was the financial failure for the studios at the time. uh, but like, but then like with the DVD releases and it kind of picking up traction, it's kind of become one of the most financially successful Friday the 13th films, which is weird. This film also features Jason never blinking. If you watch the film, Jason does not blink in this movie, which is really cool. A little fun fact there. So that's but where I'm going to rank this at. I think I got to go D as well with it. Just even with the kill, I personally like Uber Jason because it brought a different look. But ultimately, he's a swing and a miss. Sorry, I'm stretching, chat. My bad. Oh, if you guys are new to the channel, watching or whatever like that, appreciate you stopping by. We're doing a tier list for Friday the 13th. Um, as you can see, ranking the best and the worst. Now we're on to Freddy vs. Jason. This movie, this movie has three of my biggest disappointments of any Friday the 13th film. And even with those disappointments, it's still not. It's still not the worst for me. But there are three of my biggest disappointments. One, this is going to sound crude, but Catherine Isabella's new scenes were done by a body double. I am a huge Catherine Isabella fan. I love her, or Isabel fan, sorry. And I love her in all of her movies. Deeply disappointed to learn as a not a teenager, but as a young man, I was disappointed to learn that that was not her. I know that's crude. I know that's terrible, but deeply disappointed. uh, this was also the first time Kane Hodder. Well, not the first time. Kane Hodder wasn't Jason in this movie. Kane worked really hard to get Freddy vs. Jason made. He put in a lot of work. He put in a lot of one-on-ones. He went to movie studios. Um, he wanted this movie. For him not to play Jason in this film as a horror fan, this is probably one of the most this is probably the biggest travesty in horror cinema for me. Uh, it was a terrible injustice to him for somebody who spearheaded so hard to get this movie made, and then for him to not be able to portray Jason, uh, almost unforgivable. And lastly, Jason being afraid of water is I don't know what Ronnie Yu was thinking when he made this movie. there is documented history of Jason going into the water to kill people. He also lives at Camp Crystal Lake. um, I hate that Kane wasn't a Friday or Freddy vs. Jason. He even said he would have done it for free. Dude, yeah, it is one of the biggest travesties in horror for me. And I'll answer your question about how many have I seen in cinema here in a minute. Um, him being afraid of water is so goddamn fucking stupid. Um, Especially since there's a documented history of things. Like you don't need to make Jason kind of do a deep dive into the psychology of Jason. Jason is a killing machine. We don't. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this man's trauma. Like we all know he saw his mom get beheaded, and that's it. Like that's it. He's now an unstoppable killing machine. No one's going in for the movie to see the psychology of Jason. Uh, so that's kind of why I feel those are the kind of three biggest issues I have with Friday the 13th as a whole, and they're all in this movie. This also has Robert Englund as Freddy, which is great. Um, I despise Monica Keena in this movie. She's so annoying. uh, so it bothers me. Kelly Rowland's character also kind of annoying. I don't know if they decided to create all these characters as annoying as possible, but it works. Like Jason Ritter's character, like this dude, he might be better now. I don't know. I mean, maybe, but he can't act his way out of a fucking wet paper box. The only saving graces I like about this movie are Bill Freeberg, who is like the Jay from Jay and Silent Bob character, and I really like Brandon Fletcher as Mark Davis in this movie, as the I really liked him. Now, without all that being said, you would think that I'm going to make this a D movie, and I'm not. I'm going to rank this as a C, and the only reason it gets above Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell is because even though it is an injustice that Kane isn't portraying Jason, this is still Freddy versus Jason, and it was a huge moment in horror. I remember seeing this in the movie in the cinema, and um, granted, I left kind of pissed off. It was still a moment that I waited years for, and it was huge. So that's why I at least have to give it a C, even though, even though there were lots of unforgivable things in this movie. All right, and then last, man, and I really hope not last. Uh, I hope somehow Victor and Sean can work some things out here. But we have the 2009 Friday the 13th, which stars my boy Derek Mears as Jason Voorhees. Um, has Jared Padalecki, also of Supernatural fame. Ken is my least favorite Jason, and I still enjoy his portrayal. Ken is. I'm sorry, Ken. Ken is definitely my least favorite Jason. Um, Definitely. Uh, this also has Danielle Panabaker, who you might know from the Flash series. She is Jenna. Uh, this movie has a lot of things that um, I love personally. It feels like the fan base, and maybe it's changed over the years, but it feels like the fan base didn't really like Jason running, even though there is documented cases of Jason running in the woods. People really seem to be mad at Jason full on sprinting at people, um, and that's just not. I mean, yeah, I love that aspect. I also love the aspect of how they show Jason. How can Jason be from point A to point B really quickly? And that's kind of like the underground tunnel system. Uh, People were all like, "Well, that was never in the originals and all that other stuff." I mean, wasn't it though? Like, how do you think a guy just walking gets to point A to point B quickly? He's not like he's not teleporting. Like right. We all agree that Jason doesn't teleport. Uh, so how does he do that? The tunnel system makes that point. I think it's a great. I think it was a great add to it. I also really think that Derek is terrifying as Jason. Jason's running past movies, yeah, 100%. Um, I think Derek does a great job. Him throwing an axe, um, him at the dock. All right, so like, here's why I love Derek, and it's probably my second favorite Jason. There's a scene where Jason shoots a bow and arrow and goes through the eye of the driver, and then the lady gets hit by the boat, and she's bleeding, but she's able to hide. She hides under a dock. Jason then finds her and takes his machete and stabs it through the dock in the top of her head. Right? What Jason does next is something that I loved. Is that as he's doing it, he gets this. They show his face, and he's kind of like doing this thing, and it looks like he's enjoying it. And to me, I thought that was huge because he's getting if he's avenging his mom still, uh, getting that kill and him kind of enjoying it I loved it. He looks proper evil. I agree. I think the baghead to the hockey mask, um, uh, it was great. It was great. I loved it. Again, not a lot of people did at the time. Maybe now that's gotten older, people are giving it the respect it wants because we as a current Twitter society, whatever, when a new movie comes out, we want to crap all over it, and then years later, be like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. Instead of just enjoying things for what they are. Um, I don't really want. I don't know if there's really one thing I want to add here. Um, oh yeah, there is. So this movie pays homage. This movie is also kind of a direct sequel to like the other films. In the sense that instead of it being a remake, um, it could be deemed a sequel. Let's see here. 13th Ghost is really good. Yes, 13th Ghost is really good. I think people just follow sheep these days instead of having their opinion. 1,000% Spawn. 1,000%. Um, so a little fun fact about this movie is in Jason's tunnel system. If you notice carefully, during various times, um, there's a wheelchair and a sweater in there, and that's if you remember back from Friday the 13th Part 3, Mark was in a wheelchair and has that same sweater, and that is in there as well. Or not the same sweater, I'm sorry, but his wheelchair is in there, and then his mom's sweater is also in there as well. And that's really cool, kind of like throwing back paying a little homage to the original films. A lot of people were asked to become back in this movie. Victor, or not Victor Miller, Adrian King was asked, but she didn't do it. A lot of the OGs were asked to come back, but they just decided not to, which is okay. I think this movie is great, and this is why I rank Friday the 13th, 2009, as a B. I think it's really good. So there you have it. My God tiers are the original Friday the 13th, Part 7. Part A is Part 2. Again, A for Part 2, Part 4, Part 5. B for 6 in 2009. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna make 2009 an A. I think that's fair. I think that's fair for me. I'm gonna change that. So Part 6 is the only one at B. C's are Part 3, Part 8, and Freddy vs. Jason, and then D's are Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell. That's better. Yeah, yeah. After I put it at B, I'm like, that's not bad. That is. I really like it. All right, so there you have it. That is my rankings for Friday the 13th. And since this is going to be a video, anybody on YouTube, let me know what you think, what your ratings are, what your thoughts are, what I may have gotten wrong, or what you would like to see add in future videos. All right.